The front page of the New York Post this morning has got a picture of a Barbie doll on it, following Trump's warning that at Christmas, he said, your children might get 2 dolls instead of 30, and you might have to pay a few dollars more for them.
Let's just clarify. Do we know whether he was pushed? Did he leave of his own volition? Do we have any detail on that, Harriet?
Well, he managed to cling on, didn't he, for 100 days. And it's notable that this was day 101. Trump apparently very much wanted to maintain this idea of stability. So he was coming under quite a lot of pressure, of course, to get rid of Mike Waltz when the Signal story first emerged. If you remember, it was Mike Waltz who added the journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to that Signal chat when they were discussing war plans for what was going to happen in Yemen. It was Waltz who did that. So, it was felt that he was perhaps the weakest link in this. So his departure is maybe not surprising. Also, I think behind the scenes, Waltz was much more of a hawk on foreign policy issues than some within Trump's orbit. Waltz was very anti-Russia and did not like this suggestion from other people that, that Putin was a good guy and somebody that we could deal with. So I think he'll be much happier at the UN than he will be within the White House itself.
Is it a bit of a soft role, US ambassador to the UN?
Well, I mean, ask Nikki Haley. It's a difficult role because you are on the front line of US diplomacy in an organization that is not particularly warm to you. It's quite a combative position. And, you don't have, I suppose, the support that you have within the White House, where you have a lot of like-minded people who are very much agreeing with you in lockstep. But yes, I mean, it's easier in a way because you have that distance, that sort of metaphorical distance, but also that geographical distance. You're removed from Washington, you're here in New York. So it does give you a bit more space to kind of carve your own path, as it were.
Earlier, the State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, she basically heard about this news that Waltz was going to be ambassador to the UN at the same time as everyone else. A journalist read out the Truth Social post from Donald Trump announcing it, and she just said, I just heard this from you. She called it an exciting moment. What that tells us is that either she's not being briefed properly or this may have been a hastily assembled role. I don't know what we can read into that.
Yes, an exciting moment. I like that phrase. I think it could be used to describe an awful lot of what's happening in the, interesting times. But yes, this exciting moment, how far in advance it was planned, it's not clear. I mean, Waltz himself was on Fox News this very morning, defending the Trump administration. Whether he knew by then that he was out, I don't know. I would suggest that there is perhaps more orchestration to this than we sort of immediately obvious, because the fact that that it waited till 101 days, that suggests that there was some thought that went into it, that it wasn't a knee-jerk thing, and B, this idea that he already had the second job lined up, so he's not being sort of thrown into the wilderness. It sounds like it was something that was negotiated with Waltz himself.
Why did it take so long between Signalgate happening, just over a month ago, wasn't it, and the departure of Mike Waltz? Was it all down to do with Signalgate, or was it more that actually increasingly he became unaligned with Donald Trump and his objectives?
I think it was probably a combination of the two, to be honest, Kate. But I think the reason why Trump waited so long is clear. That's because he didn't want to be seen to be being pushed around by the media. During his first term, his first national security advisor, Mike Flynn, he lasted only 4 weeks, and he was forced out because there was reporting on whether Flynn had lied to the vice president, Mike Pence. And Trump got rid of Flynn very swiftly. And he came to regret that. He actually came to think that he was listening too much to the media and public opinion. So this time round, he didn't want to repeat that. He really wanted to sort of stand by Waltz. But, I think his departure is no huge surprise because Trump has chosen to protect his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, who I think he invested much more capital into getting Hegseth elected in the first place. And Hegseth is much more popular and widely known with the MAGA base than Waltz ever was.
Yeah, and aligned with the views of Donald Trump. Adam's been in touch and just says, from his opinion, the 100 days is significant. Donald Trump wanted to get through that landmark 100 days without any departures. There'd be no blot on his copybook. He gets through the 100 days. He's still got everyone in place. And then day 101, then time to get rid of Mike Waltz. Let's talk about Iranian oil. Donald Trump's also said this evening that countries who buy oil from Iran will face economic sanctions. He's posted this on Truth Social within the last hour or so. He said that any country buying Iranian oil will not be allowed to do business with the US, which is a bit different to economic sanctions, because economic sanctions could mean anything. And then in the next breath, he's basically saying you won't be able to do any business with us at all, which is a huge, hefty penalty. And presumably, this is Donald Trump throwing his weight around. This is the importance by which he puts trying to sort out the situation of Iran and where they're at with potential development of nuclear weapons.
Yes, very much so. I mean, this is really something I think that will make the world sit up and pay attention, because a lot of countries were involved with Iran. But if that means that they can't be involved with the United States, well, who are you going to choose? I think the answer is fairly obvious. So it's a real shot across the bows. This is Trump trying to pressure Iran to come to the table, to be amenable to a deal, which is what he says he wants to do. I mean, Trump likes this idea of himself as a global statesman making peace. That's what he's trying to do in Ukraine. That's what he says he's trying to do in Israel. So he really wants to get this done. And this would just be the latest salvo in this. It's pretty powerful.
OK, let's talk China tariffs. The US has approached China over the subject of softening tariffs. That's what Chinese state media are saying this evening. What's your take on this, Harriet?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's come from a state publication, which is perhaps not quite as in the know as some others. Normally, these kind of announcements have been filtered through the Global Times, which is seen as much more of a mouthpiece for the ruling regime rather than some of the others. But it wouldn't be a huge surprise. I mean, what's been interesting, the front page of the New York Post this morning has got a picture of a Barbie doll on it, following Trump's warning that at Christmas, he said, your children might get 2 dolls instead of 30, and you might have to pay a few dollars more for them, because he was asked about the impact of tariffs on Christmas. And Trump really doesn't like this idea of him being depicted, as sort of the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Bad Santa, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it is getting to the time when retailers are beginning to think about Christmas, and a huge amount of the goods will come from China. So it does make sense that they are ratcheting up their efforts to try and get some sort of agreement before, as you say, Trump becomes Bad Santa.
Yeah. So Scott Bessent, was asked about this. He mentioned no specific talks during a Fox Business Network interview, but said that high tariffs of 145% on the US side and 125% on the Chinese side needed to be de-escalated for negotiations to begin if there is to be any sort of trade deal with China. And you're right on that Christmas timing, because, of course, orders would have had to be placed by now, or should be being placed pretty quickly because of the lead times involved in production, but also getting, if you're going to get those goods to the US, then you'll need to factor in delivery time as well. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. She's alive. Yes, we've heard from her. She's resurfaced, giving a speech, her longest speech, actually, since her election defeat last November. She criticised Donald Trump's wholesale abandonment of US ideals since his return to the White House. Here is Harris last night.
We all know President Trump and his administration and their allies are counting on the notion that fear can be contagious. They are counting on the notion that if they make some people afraid, it will have a chilling effect on others. But what they're overlooking, what they have overlooked, is that fear is not the only thing that's contagious. Courage is contagious. The courage of Americans who are banding together in the face of the greatest man-made economic crisis in modern presidential history.
There we go. Courage is contagious. Who knew, Harriet?
Yes, and I'm not sure whether she is really the courageous leader that America is looking for right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially as it's been so long since we've seen her last, doesn't it?
Right, right. I mean, she's not been invisible. She's been out and about, but she's not been, as you say, making, high-profile statements. But to be fair, Kate, I don't think there's a huge appetite for her to be doing that. Joe Biden gave a speech, do you remember, a couple of weeks ago, and he spoke openly about how concerned he was about the Trump's policies. Harris said much of the same. She spoke for 15 minutes. It was at a fundraiser for female Democratic candidates in California. It's interesting she chose California, of course, because that's where she launched her political career. Some people are thinking that she might be running for the governor of California because Gavin Newsom can't run again. But others are saying, well, maybe she's going to try and run for the presidency in 2028, although it has to be said there's not a huge amount of enthusiasm for that right now.
What is her official position within the party? She's the former vice president, but does she hold any other position? I mean, I'm thinking about UK politics and how we have shadow ministers. We have Kemi Badenoch as the leader of the Conservatives, leader of the opposition. What is Kamala Harris officially known as?
Yeah, I mean, she is just the former vice president. She doesn't have any role even within the Democratic Party. She's certainly one of their sort of dignitaries in the way, that Barack Obama is, but she doesn't have anywhere near like the sort of approval or, when Obama speaks, he still makes waves. People still listen to him. Whereas Harris, I mean, to be fair, she's never really had that sort of authority or pull. And the White House was quite damning in their response to her remarks. They called her a failed loser, desperately clinging to relevance as she spirals into the political abyss.
Wow.
And to be honest, I think a lot of Americans would kind of agree with that.
Harriet, look, really good to speak to you. Thank you. Harriet Alexander, their US reporter. That is the Trump dump.